Welcome to The Snap with Sydney Jones.
What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for this week's edition of The Snap. I'm your host, Sydney Jones, and joining me today is Dallas Cowboys and SB Nation host, Kelsey Charles. Kelsey will get us up to speed on the Cowboys as the Broncos are set to travel to Dallas tomorrow. And of course, we will also touch on Kelsey's career a little bit later in the show. Kelsey, it is so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
Of course. How's the season going for you so far? About halfway through now.
Yeah, can I complain much? It's been pretty amazing, I will have to say. I mean, I've been around the team for longer than I'd like to admit. And so these are very reminiscent of the 2014, 2016 seasons for the Cowboys, where there was just so much excitement around the team, so much thought about what they could do in the future. And, luckily we have McCarthy on our team now, so he's not going to kill our dreams in that NFC title game. So
that's so true. I mean, I can't even believe we're already talking about week 9 of the regular season. I know the season's moving slow, but also really fast at the same time.
Yeah, it always happens this way where you get to the season and it has just drug on and you're like, gosh, when are we actually playing? And then you get in it and you're like, how are we already almost we're halfway through? What is happening?
I know. I feel the same way. Well, I mean, it's been somewhat of a crazy week, I feel like, for both of us here. Obviously, here in Denver, Von Miller, he was traded to the Rams. I know we'll all miss him here in Broncos country. But for you guys, I mean, Dak Prescott, he was ruled out of Sunday's game with a calf injury. Kelsey, I know Dak has probably been limited at practice so far this week, but do you know what his status is for Sunday? Kind of sounds like he's on track to play.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different than last week. Last week, there was a lot of back and forth on, we'll see. It's kind of a game time decision. He's going to go through a workout and we'll talk with the trainers and really get the analysis and pregame, and which is never a good feeling going into honestly, the Vikings are pretty unassuming. They're good. They're a lot better than their record shows. And so I was really hoping we'd have him. And then, obviously that didn't happen, but luckily Cooper Rush stepped in and did the thing. But, it is a lot different this week because McCarthy's even come out and said, hey, the plan is to have him play. And we're watching out there. I mean, obviously they're going to prepare Cooper Rush for things and, make sure that he's ready as well. But the concept and what we're kind of seeing and him taking these first team reps and practice, it feels pretty likely that Dak Prescott will be playing on Sunday.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, here it's going to be a tough matchup going against Dak Prescott, but also if Dak wasn't able to play, still a tough matchup going up against Cooper Rush because he had a great game last Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that was something where Cooper Rush made a lot of people eat crow, and I was happily one of them come Monday morning. And, he's a guy that's been on and off this roster over the past couple of years. And I think that truly he's one of those guys that coaching staffs pick out and they say, hey, this is a talent. And those that are kind of on the outside looking in are wondering, why is this man still on the roster? What does he really bring to the table? He's never officially started in a game. Why do you have so much faith in him? And then he goes out and plays a game like he did this past weekend and just totally, knocks it out of the park, and you get it. And you understand this is why you all get paid to, scout talent and coach these kind of guys, because McCarthy at the end of the game, he said, this is the guy that we always knew he was. We knew that we had this in him. It was a matter of him having the opportunity to show that to the world. So yeah, I mean, you're right. And granted, it was one game, so I don't want to go and crown him forever automatically off the bat, but still if you can do it once, you can do it again. So it's definitely something to look out for.
For sure. Well, I mean, we've all seen how dominant this Cowboys offense has played so far this season. I mean, averaging a league best 455 yards per game, 32 points per game. I mean, you guys have so many playmakers like Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz. The list just goes on. For some of those guys, Kelsey, what can this Broncos secondary really expect from them on Sunday?
Well, I think the thing about this Cowboys offense is that it's a pick your poison situation, truly. They've got the run game, and it's not just Ezekiel Elliott, but it's Tony Pollard too, where it truly is the two-headed monster in the backfield. And then when you go outside, you look at the Dalton Schultz, who really has emerged in light of Blake Jarwin being out last season. And honestly, if the Cowboys keep playing like they do, dare I say that he gets a Pro Bowl nod, which is just so weird to even like say, if you will. But so that's just those two sections, right? We haven't even touched on Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup's coming back into the lineup soon. We might see some more from him as well. So I really do feel like it's a matter of trying to figure out what you are going to try and take away from this offense. But then also they can still beat you with the other side of their offensive weapons. So it really is a bit of a lose-lose situation, and they're going to have quite the task on their hands.
Right. Yeah, they certainly will, especially for the secondary who has seemed to struggle the past couple of games. Looking at the injury report, Kelsey, I saw, starting left tackle Tyron Smith, he might miss Sunday. Is that what I'm hearing? He's likely to be out.
Yeah, so that was something where we got word this week that it's more of a bone spur that he's dealing with. And, again, he's kind of been this guy that's on and off in terms of the injuries that he's dealing with over the past couple of years. It's towards the late end of your career where your body's banged up, especially in a position like that, right? And but I say all of that because he's a wildly important position on this team and off this offensive line, which has always been a staple in these recent Cowboys teams, right? So continuity is everything on the O-line. It's so important that you have these guys and they just maintain their positions, because quite frankly, they're doing well when you don't hear anything from them, because that's how you know they're doing their job. So it is concerning when this injury comes up and trying to figure out what that role is going to look like. I will say that Terrence Steele had to step in for La'el Collins over at right tackle. He was an undrafted free agent coming out of Texas Tech. And last season, I really did feel like he got an unfair assignment and having to step in and play. And he did not do well, quite frankly. And we called it the Terrence Steele experiment. And everyone was like, we're done with this. He went and took the offseason, and I'm telling you, it's night and day what this man is doing on the field. So I say all of that because I think you're going to see some movement and a lot more options in terms of what they can do to plug in pieces for these guys that have had to, step out for whether it was, like I mentioned, La'el Collins and the suspension, or with the, Tyron Smith and actually being injured. So you're probably going to see some Terrence Steele left tackle. Then you'll get your Connor Williams. You'll have the same thing in terms of center. Biotish is going to be the same one. And then you'll have Zach Martin, and then you'll actually get La'el Collins back into the lineup over at the right tackle. So again, it's definitely not preferable to have to move around your lineups, especially in a position like that, coming into a game. But I feel like this team feels really confident in the talents that they have and their position flex. And so I think it'll actually work better than, it has in years past, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. On the other side of the ball for the Cowboys, there's been a ton of talk here this week in Denver about Micah Parsons, obviously the NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Teddy Bridgewater said that our offense needs to know where he is at all times on the field. Kelsey, what are your thoughts on the rookie linebacker? What kind of threat does he pose on Sunday?
I mean, that's the problem with him, is that you don't know where he's going to be, because he can truly come in and play it all. We talked to his coach in the offseason when we drafted him, and he said, hey, listen, this man, I don't think you guys even understand the talent that you have. And quite frankly, we didn't. He's capable of rushing over the middle. He can put his hand on the ground. That is something that I don't know when the last time a player has been able to come in as a rookie and just transition so seamlessly from a linebacker to a D end in various schemes, and do it not just sufficiently, but do it well. And that's the concern with Micah Parsons, is that he really does have that true position flex where he can come at you from all different angles. You can put him all over the field and he can make an impact. He's disruptive. Pair him with DeMarcus Lawrence will be returning. That's terrifying too. Randy Gregory is being impactful. Terrell Basham, he doesn't have like the actual stat lines, but we all know stats aren't everything. But these defensive linemen and these, pass rushers, they're making some plays. So I would definitely be concerned if I was Teddy Bridgewater and having to be productive against, those guys. Although, again, like once you do get past them, I do feel like this secondary, despite the fact they are making plays, is an area that you all could exploit, because they are giving up a decent amount of yards in the passing game. And so it's kind of a high risk, high reward situation, if you will, if you're willing to take on Trayvon Diggs and challenge him and say, hey, come make a play. And he just might do that, but you could also, be the winner in that scenario too.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs has been fun to watch, quite frankly, this year. Seems like he's just really quickly become one of the top young cornerbacks in this league. So yeah, he'll definitely be a tough challenge for us this week.
Yeah, he's impressive. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. If you think about it, like these guys, if the way I look at it is O linemen don't get enough credit for the talent that they bring to these teams because they are personally facing off against some of the most athletic and most talented players on the field, right? With these, pass rushers and all of the guys that are trying to attack the quarterback. So I kind of take that same perspective when I look at the secondary, right? So I look at, the matchups that Trayvon Diggs has to face every week. He's consistently against the number one receiver. You have to almost be playing the wide receiver position backwards, which he played wide receiver previously in a past life. So I have to imagine that helped him. But, so I don't think, he's impressive in what he's done. But when you really take a step back and you think about truly what goes into it, it's so next level. I mean, he's a cheat code. I mean, he's unbelievable.
Well, like I mentioned, obviously Micah Parsons, he's been a topic of discussion here in Denver. So has Trayvon Diggs, like we just discussed. But Kelsey, in Dallas, what's been the topic of discussion, this week surrounding this matchup in the Broncos?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is a matter of, I think it was shocking, but I also do understand it from a management perspective of, trading away one of your franchise players. I mean, I'm not looking forward to facing that team in LA now. But I think that's a question of, hey, where are the Broncos at and where are the Cowboys at? How can we make sure that throughout this process, we're thinking bigger picture? And I think that was what you saw the team do last week when they faced the Vikings, where obviously, again, Dak Prescott, when he is injured and he's just about able to play, he's going to want to play. Right. And so I guarantee you, he was not happy about not being able to play last week. But at the end of the day, the ownership and, the training staff and the coaching staff had to make a team decision that was better for the greater good, if you will, and think about, hey, if we really are trying to make it to the big game, potentially, if that's the trajectory that we're on, we need our quarterback. We need our franchise quarterback. We don't just need our backup quarterback. So give you some time to rest, and Cooper's going to come in. Okay. So it's thinking that way for this week too. If there are any players that maybe not 100%, maybe not truly there, if for any reason there was a setback with Dak, which I don't think there is, but I think that's the mentality that this team is at, where they're saying, is Denver waving the white flag? And if so, should we play accordingly and maybe make sure that we play just well enough versus just completely, trying to go out and bury them. It's a preservation mindset. But I think there are enough players that are at, peak health or just right at the cusp that I don't think it's going to, play much into it, to be totally honest. And so I really do feel like at the end of the day, it's just a matter of continuing to go out and prove what this team has, been doing week in, week out, and do it against all types of caliber of teams. And the Broncos surely don't have a great record right now, but that's not to say they don't have some playmakers. And it's really easy to get caught up in these types of seasons and have a trap game just fall into your lap, and because you weren't prepared or you didn't, give them enough credit for what they could bring to the table. So it's definitely business as usual. But I think you're going to see a lot of these guys in the starting lineups that the Broncos will have to end up facing.
Well, I have to say, we're not waving the white flag yet. Head coach Vic Fangio, he said this week, no one's surrendering. They still have confidence in this team. And
you know what? Honestly, the Cowboys haven't beat the Broncos since 1995.
Right.
And I know they've only played 6 times. Yeah. So, at the very least, it's going to be a fun storyline for that fact alone. Like that's quite the statistic right there.
It definitely is. Well, Kelsey, appreciate your insight on the Cowboys and your help getting Broncos country up to speed on the matchup. But let's switch gears a little bit now. As many of our listeners know, here on the Snap, one of the main goals is to highlight women's impact in and around the NFL. So just want to dive into your career for a couple minutes here. Just to start, can you tell me a little bit more about your role with the Cowboys and SB Nation?
Yeah. So I am kind of a bit of a hybrid animal, if you will. I do media and marketing. So my roles with the Cowboys are largely in the media spectrum and also with SB Nation. So I host a podcast with SB Nation. It's all female hosted. It's called Girls Talking Boys. And it's every week with my co-host, Megan Murray. It's really awesome. One of the first of its kind. There aren't a lot of all female lineups discussing, the Cowboys and sports. And I guess in general, sometimes, there definitely is, but there needs to be more. And so I'm really excited to be a part of that. And then I also host a weekly television show here on Bally Sports with the Dallas Cowboys and my friend David Hellman. It is a blast. We are very heavy into bringing guests on. We have a good time. It's a little more casual. It's not we do the X's and O's, of course, but we're a lot more laid back. It's targeted to a different audience, right? So it's a good time for sure. But then, as you and I were discussing before, outside of that, I also work in sports marketing and do a lot of endorsements and sponsorships, naming rights deals, NIL type things. So all over the map, if you will.
Yeah, sounds like there's a ton of different facets to your job. Can you kind of walk me through the path that you took to get to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, listen, so I went to school for journalism in my undergrad, and I was looking to get an internship. And I think anyone who's pursuing the journalism route understands that they're always going to tell you, all right, make your reel, and then you're going to go to like X market and then work your way up. And I would tell you, I was going to say,
that's what I did.
Yeah. I would tell you, I've been hosting shows and content with the Dallas Cowboys for off and on about 8 years or so. Wow. And you're always going to get told no. And you're always going to get told there's a certain way you need to do it, especially as a female in the industry, especially as, someone in a more traditional industry, like maybe like a media or a marketing. And I will tell you this, that don't be afraid to shake things up and not accept no. There was my people who told me, hey, I went to SMU, and they said, we're going to give this internship to XYZ kid because, he's a big Cowboys fan. And I was like, no, like, that's not what we're going to do. I mean, that's fine if the Cowboys want to give it to him, but like, I'm going to go in there and work really, really hard, and they can decide who they want. Right. And ultimately, like, I ended up getting hired on full time with them. So I just feel like there's a lot of people that are going to have a lot of opinions about what you should and shouldn't do. Someone, you have to be like a certain size, look a certain way, and, do this and do that. And I will tell you, I don't fit any of those models whatsoever. And I think it's a matter of really, truly being honest with yourself about what you want, what you like, what sets your soul on fire, and chasing after it wholeheartedly and genuinely, like, not taking no for an answer. And if it's risky, then have a stable 9 to 5 and then work on it outside of work. I have done that too. I mean, again, as I mentioned, this isn't even my 9 to 5 job. And so I'm really big on, if it matters to you, you will make the time. And I think that's been a really big key for me in my career.
I love that. That's some great advice you just gave, Kelsey. Kind of going off of that, what's kind of been your favorite part of the job, or what's been maybe a favorite event or game that you've ever covered?
Ooh, I will honestly say, training camps are some of my favorite. I really do love training camp. That there's a couple of events that have been like games that have been epic. And like, again, as I mentioned, the 2016 season, I love going, I always go to an away game or two each year. Away games are so much fun. It's so fun to see fans that are, just traveling with the team. It really does give you perspective to how like larger than life this industry and this job and this team is. And it's just so fun. But I will say training camp is one of my favorites because you just get a different animal with these guys. I mean, you're in the trenches with them like 12 hours a day. And I'm sure you understand, but like, it's just funny and you get to see their personalities. I'm trying to think, so I used to play basketball with like Romo and Dez and Cole Beasley, really? And they're honestly like really, really good.
That's
so those are, I know, like truly, those are some fun memories. I'm trying to think, gosh, I mean, I just love, like, again, like it's just so much fun, like being around these teams. I'll give you a fun example. Like when I was working here full time, I was like running down in my neighborhood, and I literally I was just running on like a Friday afternoon, and it was raining, and I look behind me, I'm about to turn a corner, and I see this like man like running after me. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm running and someone's like chasing after me. And it turns out it was Des Bryant. And he was like, what are you doing? Like running out in the rain. I'm like, what are you doing? And again, like I think that you lose perspective of some of these guys and their personalities and like their humanity when you just solely talk X's and O's. So it's really been a pleasure of mine to be able to get to know some of them personally and really see like what makes them tick.
Right. That's my favorite part of the job too. Just getting to know these guys on a personal level that a lot of people don't see because they just see them as football players, not as human.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's so funny to me that you say training camp though, because that is my least favorite part of the year. Absolute least favorite part.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I get that because it is like really rough.
It's a lot.
I used to run it when I worked here full time, and but it's
I didn't want to do that. Yeah.
It is such a unique experience because you literally, I mean, I was like working 6 weeks straight nonstop, like even all weekends, all days of the week, like 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then you just go out and do it again. And so I definitely don't miss it, but I do have a lot of fun memories.
And last but not least, Kelsey, you touched on this a little bit, but what's one piece of advice you'd give someone looking to get into this industry, really no matter what area of it they want to work in?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. I would say it's just reach out to people. A lot of people like to help others and don't have an agenda, and understand that, you know, this industry is really tough to get into and it's very competitive, and therefore, you know, you might have to just shadow or do, you know, an internship, or maybe you could do some pro bono work of some sort and just really like show what you've got. You know, make sure that just think about it from like a problem solving perspective, right? As I'm going to put my marketing hat on for a minute, but how are you showing value to these people? How are you showing like what you can bring to the table? What can you do outside of just be a really awesome fan, you know? And what different perspectives can you bring? What gaps can you fill? I think that's always an important mindset to have, because ultimately you are a vehicle for helping whoever you're trying to contact, you know, be better at their jobs. So I think that's really key when you're looking at something, especially as females. It's important for us to have a voice and a spot at the table. And I think a lot more teams in this industry in general is realizing that. And so take advantage of that as a woman. And if that's what you want to do and you are a female and you want to get into the industry, again, you are a vehicle to help these people achieve their goals, which is to hire more women, which is to have more female voices. And honestly, you don't have to know it all. That's never going to be the point. So don't feel intimidated about, you know, not being 100% like perfect. That's not, if you go in honest and, you know, just say, hey, like, I have no idea, but I'm going to totally look into that. No one's going to fault you for that. You're the different type of content than maybe, you know, someone else who covers something else a different way. So I would say, you know, just reach out and ask for advice, and ask to maybe shadow someone, or ask, you know, if you can help at all, or, you know, have like some samples. I always think it's really important to buy your website. So kelseycharles.com is mine. Make sure you own your website. And if you really want to get into like the media industry, have some samples up there so you can quickly send someone to, hey, here's some of my work. Keep it fresh, keep it relevant. Engage with people on Twitter, engage with them. I know people that have gotten internships and jobs. I brought someone here for the Cowboys who engaged with me, and I was like, holy cow, like your content is good, you know, like you're great. And it's true, like it's how it works sometimes. This industry really is.
My boss reached out to me on Twitter. Yeah.
Yes. It really is a lot of like who you know, and also are you just staying involved in the conversations that you actually want to be in.
Right.
And then I would say too, for women as well who are already in the industry, I think it's really important to lift while you climb. I think that there's this nature of, I don't know how to put it, competitiveness, and it's hard when you're one of the first to be in an industry, or what you're more like the minority, like women are currently in the league. And I would say that the one thing I would just emphasize is there's always going to be more than enough to go around. There's more than one female in the Dallas Cowboys building who does something similar to what I do, but we're different, and we always will be, and we all have a space. And so I would just say, you know, keep that perspective, but also make sure that you are helping to groom the future yous and ensure that there's a spot at the table for future females that want to get into the industry. So I have a lot of thoughts on the topic, and I'm always happy to chat with people about it. But like, I just say grind, man. Like if it's what you love, make time for it and reach out to people. And like, the worst thing they can say is no. Truly, the worst thing they can say is no. And people like to help people, and it's just go for it.
Lift while you climb. I absolutely love that. I'm going to write that down. That's
Yes.
great advice.
Yes, my friend.
Well, Kelsey, I can't thank you enough for your time today. It was truly such a pleasure getting to chat with you.
You're so welcome. Looking forward to having you in Dallas.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of The Snap. Thanks so much for tuning in, and make sure to meet me right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube next Friday for another fun episode.